Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Miscast in the NBA. This is going to be part three. I'm going to be doing Jalen Duren today, and this has been my favorite player so far. I think it's probably going to be my favorite player of the entire offseason. A little early to tell, but I really enjoyed watching the film and kind of breaking down Duren. So let's get into a little bit of why and where I started from. So if you haven't been following, there's a dashboard that I built. Basically, I'm just trying to identify the type of player a player is being used as. So for Duren, you see that he's being used as an interior big. These are more of like your Duncan centers, like your Rudy Gobert's, your Jared Allen's, centers who are mainly pick and roll big mans. They play in the dunker spot a lot, lob threats, things like that. And then I'm looking at percentile rank ability, so like how good a player is in these different roles. Again, no catch-all metric in the NBA is perfect, but this directionally gives me a sense of like, is there something there for a type of player? And that's where I kind of started on Duren. Like 97th percentile primary creator, obviously not going to be true, but this was interesting to me with Duren as like a ball handler and then kind of like focal big, right? Like this is more of like your Jokic, your Sabonis playing through your center at the elbow, letting them play make. Or like in delay actions, we'll break it down a little bit more in the film. But like both of these, this 97th percentile primary creator, 98th percentile focal big, tells me that Duren maybe has like the chops to be more on ball and more of like an offensive engine than Detroit's really using him as, right? So that's where I started. Let's take a look at kind of his player profile. Points, not a ton, right? Like 12 points per game, 10 rebounds. This is like your traditional center. You can see that he's actually trending up though. Rebounds about flat, around like 10 and a half. Really good efficiency, right? 70 percentile or 70% field goal percentage, 98 percentile, 89 percentile for your interior bigs. Obviously, no 3-point percentages. And then your free throw, not great, 67%. Blocks, not the best for a center, right? 1.1. You defensively, you kind of want your center to be a little bit better, but he's made some strides as the season has gone on as well, just being a better defender, which we'll break down in the film as well. So some of your offensive rank, some of your advanced stats, right? A lot better offensive rating as the season has gone by. This one I thought would be higher or like just trending higher. I think this is the most interesting as we're going to break down is he's actually a really good passer. And I think like playing through him a little bit more will enable him to, well, have more assists, but also just be like a good engine as an offensive engine for the Pistons. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. His usage kind of went up throughout the course of the season. This is what you like to see. And I hope this continues into next season as well, because I think Duren's like a really, really solid player. Same with touches. So like these are all his usage metrics, trending up a little bit. Time of possession trending up a little bit. Playing out of the elbow, I want to see him play out of the elbow a little bit more. So hopefully next season you'll see this higher as well. But yeah, like 89 percentile for interior bigs, right? Interior bigs don't play out of the elbow a lot. They're more like dunker spot, duck in centers. They play more out of these like post paint touches. So Duren's kind of like already on the border of like interior big and kind of like your focal big. So that's why I started from. Let's take a look at some of his play types. This is why he's like a really good, or in my algorithm classified as a really good primary creator, because he's in the 99th percentile of pick and roll ball handler. Obviously he's not, right? It's just because there's noise because he's barely used as a pick and roll ball handler, right? He's in the 3rd percentile of possessions. So he's not really used in the role, but he's really good in that limited usage, right? Obviously, really small sample size, so like not going to take too much away from it, but that's why I wanted to investigate some of like what that looks like on film, right? So we'll break that down too. Same with isolation. He's in the 81st percentile of efficiency in isolation. Again, not really used in isolation, but these two are what like primary creators are really strong at, right? So because Duren is so strong as a pick and roll ball handler and in isolation, the algorithm without taking frequency into account at all is just telling me that Duren's a really, really good primary creator, right? Just directionally. So like that's why like I'm going to break down the film. That's why I want to watch him, because these things are interesting. But when you're talking about sample sizes that are that small, obviously a lot of it can be chalked up to noise as well, right? And that's why we have film, right? So let's get into the film. Oh, one more thing first, like pick and roll ball handler as the roll man. It's also pretty good, right? This is your traditional big. And as like a post-up offensive player, pretty solid too. So those are like more your interior big, traditional big type of play types, and he's pretty good in those two as well. So that's kind of the data. That's the dashboard. Let's get into the film now, just to break down, see if like we can support some of what we're seeing here, and see if Duren actually has some of the chops to be more on ball, more of an offensive engine, as like a focal big where you can just like play through him a little bit more. Like Cade's obviously your primary creator and he's phenomenal, but maybe like just shifting some of the offense through Duren as well just creates an entirely different avenue of attacking, which could be really dangerous to have to defend if you're playing against the Pistons. So let's get into it. So on film, I like to start with kind of how the player is being used currently. So again, we saw that he's being used as like an interior big. There's more of your traditional big. So a lot of pick and roll man, a lot of playing out the dunker spot. So let's just start with the film on kind of that stuff. Here's Duren running in transition, and then he's just going to be a rim running big. So he's going to get to the dunker spot. The dunker spot is kind of this area Duren's in right now. You can be on either block, like either side of the paint. And it's called a dunker spot because it's really easy to get a lob and just dunk it from that area, right? Like super creative name. And that's where traditional big men live, and that's where Duren plays out of a lot, especially earlier in the season. So here you're going to see him get this offensive rebound and just finish. Good offensive rebound, good finisher. The second thing we're going to show is kind of Duren used as a roll man. So here you're going to get a double drag, first screen, and then Duren's the second screen. The thing to notice here on this screen is he exits the screen really early, right? So you can see he didn't actually set the screen. And this is cool because Chris Paul looks like he wants to go under the screen. But because Duren exits the screen early, Chris Paul can't go under the screen. So he's going to take an extra second to wait until Duren clears and then go over the screen, right? Because of that second, because Duren exits early, he's just going to get the lob and then finishes, right? Again, traditional big man stuff. This is like what most big men in the NBA do and have done historically. Here you're going to see the Pistons start in horns formation. So horns is just two people are set up at the elbow. Here you see it's Cade and Duren. The other two players are typically in the corners. You can see that Holland is going to the corner. He's not really there yet, but like the formation itself is like two players in the corner, one player bringing it up, and then two players at the elbow. Here, Schroeder's going to enter the ball to Cade, and then they're going to go into a two-man game with Cade and Duren. You can see Duren do the same thing. He's just going to exit the screen early. And then Cade's a good primary creator as well. So you're going to see Cade throw this lob to Duren and Duren finish, right? Good finish. And Cade's a good primary creator. He's a little turnover prone, but it's fine. Like, he demands a lot of gravity. A lot of teams will send two to Cade and blitz Cade or play Cade at the level, right? So, like, it helps to have a rim running big. And then here, Duren's just going to go, he's going to roll again. But after this doesn't end up in a pass, right? Again, Spurs send two to Cade here. Once this doesn't end up in a pass, Duren's going to live in the dunker spot. So he's just going to stay there because the Spurs, when they send two, they basically conceded that they need to send a different player to Duren. And then now that a different player is on Duren, it's going to be a smaller player that the Pistons can take advantage of, right? So here, Pistons are going to swing the ball and then get it to Duren. And then here, Duren has a mismatch against Keldon Johnson, right? And this all starts because the pick and roll action happens where Cade draws two. Now a smaller defender on Duren, and then Duren has to finish, right? Which he does over Keldon Johnson. So all traditional big man stuff. Here, the Pistons are going to get it to Tobias to kind of go at this mismatch with Chris Paul. Chris Paul gambles. This then becomes a 2-on-1 where Bismack Biyombo has to make a decision whether he comes out to guard Tobias. And then where's Duren, right? Duren's exactly where he should be in the dunker spot. And then he's going to get this dunk because Tobias is going to throw a lob after Biyombo has to come up to help, right? Perfect example of why it's called a dunker spot. Now, all of that is like normal big man stuff here. Again, you're going to see Duren exit. This is going to be Duren playing the short roll. What that means is instead of fully rolling all the way to the basket, you kind of stop short a little where you give a pocket pass for your point guard to give you the pass. The reason that's important, especially in today's NBA, is a lot of teams send different coverages to primary creators. So, like, we saw Spurs blitz Cade, and then Cade will see that a lot, which means you need a release valve where you can create a passing angle for Cade. In this case, it's for Schroeder, where they can still see you, right? You can imagine if you're getting blitzed, if you see two defenders, and then the center rolls all the way to the basket, sometimes it's a little difficult to see over that, right? Duren's going to exit this early. Also smart because you know that you don't need to set the screen because Sheed's already far behind the play. So he's going to have Sheed on his hip already. He's going to have this pass available. Schroeder's going to send this pocket pass, right? This is just such a clear passing lane, right? If you roll further and roll faster, this might not be as clear of a passing lane. So centers nowadays have to be able to play out of this like short roll. I think Duren's really capable of it, mainly because, as we're going to talk about later on in the video, I think he's a really skilled passer. But just something that, especially in today's NBA, is going to be required for centers to be... You want your centers to be able to play in the short roll like that. So here, Duren picks up the ball. We're going to get into some like cooler plays, I think, of Duren kind of as like a decision maker and just knowing what to do with himself and with the ball. Here you see that Schroeder's trapped. Most centers in this position are going to get the ball and go immediately into another handoff with Schroeder, right? Like, you get the ball as a release valve and you give it back to your point guard. So Duren knows that that's what he's supposed to do, and then just fakes Pirtle. You can see that Pirtle thinks that that's happening and might get an easy steal, and Duren just goes immediately backdoor. So let's do transition again here. Rim runner, pretty athletic, good in transition, and he's just going to get this pass, finishing. But he's also capable of running transition as like the ball handler. So you're gonna see that here. The star gets a steal. Like, he looks smooth for a big man, right? Like, he looks comfortable handling the ball, comfortable bringing the ball up. Let's get into some plays where he's the primary offensive engine. So this is a game where Cade was out, and then the Pistons played through Duren a lot. So here Duren's gonna get it at the elbow. You see a lot of focal bigs play out of the elbow, right? And then like kind of face actions happening on either side, or they'll play it at the top of the key, which is called a delay set, which we'll get into too. But here you're going to see that the Pistons enter the ball to the elbow. And then basically when Duren gets this ball at the elbow, at the top of your key is going to be a split action. That's just going to be two players having a screen for each other, or one player setting the screen for the other. The Warriors ran this a ton during their championship seasons with like Clay and Curry. But here you have different options, right? Like, the play itself here is for Duren to run this into a handoff. But because this Pistons player is Sasser, I think, because Sasser is getting top locked basically means the Raptors defender is not letting you get the screen. He's on like the top side of the player. Because Lawson's on the top side of Sasser's going to backdoor cut this, right? Instead of actually coming through the screen and getting this handoff from Duren, he's going to go backdoor. But like, for a center to process that and make this read is pretty advanced compared to like what a lot of centers in the NBA are doing. Like, a lot of centers are just making the read like, oh, I know I'm supposed to be going into a handoff, which honestly a lot of centers might not even have that read. But Duren can make the read like, oh, I'm supposed to go into a handoff here, and then if this is a backdoor cut, I'm gonna make this pass. And like, this is, so that's why you backdoor cut it, because Lawson, look at Lawson. Lawson's like so high trying to block this screen from happening. Sasser just gets a free backdoor cut, and then Duren makes a great pass. It's like, just walking through your reads, like, okay, option one is a handoff, but maybe Sasser's not going to go for the handoff. Like, that's just impressive stuff for a center to be able to process and make the reads on. Here, this is just a dot. So here's like a variation of blind pig, which actually the next play is a blind pig, so I'll just go into that a little bit more on the next play. But look at this pass. He's going to get this ball here, and then there's only 4 seconds left on the shot clock. But you have to drop this. Like, this has to be a dot. There's not much space for a star to catch this, right? Like, Duren put it in the only place that a star can catch it where it's not going to get stolen. Like, that's a phenomenal pass. This is a tough finish. A star misses this, but, like, I mean, this is just a hard finish. But what a pass, right? Like, that's, like, the only place that ball could go where it's not a turnover. So this is a blind pig, which we'll go into now about what is happening here. So basically the Pistons here are getting the ball back to Schroeder, and then instead of giving it to Schroeder, because you're going to see this defender actually play aggressively and come up to kind of block this pass, instead of just going directly to Schroeder, you're going to get this ball to Duren, and Duren's going to put it back to Schroeder as Schroeder does a backdoor cut, right? So here you see Duren comes up to get it, and Duren's not a shooter, right? You can see him clapping his hands now for the ball. Duren's not a shooter, so Pirtle's playing off him. Most centers are going to be playing off Duren, right? So here, entry to Duren, immediately Schroeder takes off, right? As Schroeder takes off to get this handoff. There's a play the Thunder run a ton for Hartenstein and like Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins. Because the center's playing off you so far, if you set this screen well, this handoff well, there's just a free three that you get. So Durant doesn't set this that well, right? Like, if you can come up a little bit and set this better, Schroeder gets an absolutely free three off of this play. Here, Durant doesn't set it well, but Schroeder gets good downhill momentum. And you basically have a two-man game here too. But it's being able to make this read, being able to come up, get the ball, and then go immediately into a blind pig action, which is that, like, kind of that triangle setup where you're trying to get the ball back to your point guard if they're being heavily overplayed. That stuff is, like, plays that, like, the Knicks ran that for Hartenstein a lot. The Thunder run that for Hartenstein. Like, you want your centers, especially non-shooting centers, to be able to make that handoff read just so that you can get your guards kind of more open looks. And it's like, it's how you punish teams for having their centers play off of a non-shooting player, right? Just be good as a handoff player, be good as a screener. Here's a delay action, which we talked about a little earlier. A delay action just basically means, like, your center is getting the ball at the top of the key. You're delayed coming up the court. So then, like, action's running on either side of you, right? So at the top of your screen, you're going to see the split action again. This is going to be a great backdoor cut. But look at this one hand pass from Durant. And the reason you backdoor cut this is the same, right? You see the defenders top locking. They don't want you to come over the screen. And Durant's just going to find this one-handed backdoor pass. Right? Like, this is impressive stuff. Like, not many centers are making that read. And even if you're making that read, not many centers are making that pass. Right? And then here's the other part of your delay set, right? So, like, if you're running a lot of delay actions, you want to be able to keep a defense honest, either by shooting, which Durant cannot do, or you want to be a good driver, right? So, like, you can play make out of this top of the key delay action, but you also want to drive and be able to, like, have different avenues of attacking. So this is the same exact play, right? You're going to see a split action happen at the bottom of your screen between Schroeder and Tim Hardaway Jr., but instead of waiting for that to develop, Durant's just going to be aggressive and drive, right? And because an action's happening at the bottom of your screen, you're occupying all the defenders there, right? Like, Quickly's occupied, like, Battle's occupied. Because they're occupied, this rim the paint is completely wide open. And there's no rim protector, right? Because the rim protector is guarding Durant. So does Durant have to be, like the best one-on-one player? No, but, like, if Durant can beat centers off the dribble, which I feel very comfortable that he can, which is also why his efficiency in, like, isolation reads are really good, then you're getting really dangerous as, like, an offensive hub center in, like, some of these delay sets, right? Like, look at this play. There's just going to be a hezzy, swivel his hips, so his hips are going to turn around, and then he's just going to beat his defender, up fake, and finish it. Like, you don't have to be crazy, right? But, like, to be able to beat centers with his athleticism, with his quickness, with his speed, it doesn't take that much, right? So just being able to dribble, being able to put the ball on the floor, you have a huge advantage, right? Immediately catches this against Orlando Robinson, just spins, and then a small euro. Again, nothing crazy, but it's you get so much more dangerous when you can do these things, especially against centers, because there's also no center protecting the rim anymore now that they're guarding Durant, right? So here, let's get into some of his pick and roll ball handling. So you're going to see against the Heat, the Pistons are going to go straight into this inverted pick and roll. Inverted pick and roll just means, like, the guard is screening for the center. So off the screen, Durant's just going to attack quickly. Because you play through Durant at the elbow, you're already pretty close to the basket. So there's just a one dribble, two dribble finish, right? So here's a screen from Beasley, and then just finishing over Ware, right? He looks comfortable dribbling, right? He looks comfortable putting the ball in the basket, on the floor. Here, this is just random offense for him, right? Like, you saw Beasley, this was supposed to be a handoff, and then Kayson's guarding this well. He's aggressive at the point of this handoff, so they're gonna not go into this handoff. Right? So now you can see, like, Pistons are in random offense. Like, nothing's happening right now. A lot of times when teams are in this situation where it's random offense and you have the center with the ball, you need a guard to come over to get the ball back. Like, you need to come get a handoff from your center. Instead, what the Pistons can lean more into is just going to screen for Durant. Right? So instead of the handoff, you just get the screen immediately. Waters doesn't really set this. But then here's Durant going against Hartenstein and finishing. Right, so it just gives you another option in random offense. Like, oh, instead of my point guard coming back to get the ball, I can just instead screen immediately for Durant. Right, here's another really cool play. They're gonna screen for Durant immediately into this handoff with Schroeder. And the reason this is interesting is, especially when you have a player like Cade, who's grown as a primary creator, who's first All-Star season last year, who's become a really good primary ball handler, teams are going to start doubling more off Cade, right? Like teams are going to start blitzing Cade more. When that happens, one of the ways you try to counteract that is you want the player screening, you want their defender detached from the play, right? You don't want the defender being able to just be at the level of the screen where they can immediately blitz Cade and immediately double Cade. So one of the ways you can do that is, well, why don't you have someone screen for Duren first? Once you screen for Duren, like in this play, then when you go into the handoff with Schroeder here, or with Cade, let's say, you don't see any defender close to Duren, right? Like you can't really trap really easily off of this play because you set that initial screen. So here, then immediately in the two-man game, and Schroeder finishes. And then this play is also similar in that this offensive play is going to break down. So what this action is supposed to be is it's supposed to be a cross screen, which is this screen that Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to set for Tobias so that you can get across the paint, right? Cross screen. So Tobias is going to get over the screen to try to set up in the paint to get a deep post touch. And you're going to see as this play develops, that's what Tobias does. He goes in the middle of the paint. You're supposed to throw this pass. Ideally, right? This is supposed to be a play for Tobias to get a deep post touch and just finish. But the problem here is that Asar is a non-shooter and Asar is the one in the corner, which means that Middleton can kind of cheat over and not guard Asar and just block this pass from happening. Right? So once this pass is blocked from happening, you need to start running something else, right? Which is what Tim Hardaway Jr. does. Tim Hardaway Jr. goes immediately into this screen where a lot of times you'll go immediately into like a dribble handoff where you get the ball and maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. shoots. But you can just add versatility into what you do by just setting the screen from Tim Hardaway Jr. instead. So Tim Hardaway Jr. sets the screen. And again, what do you notice? It's that the paint is so open because the rim protector in Sar is already guarding Duren, right? Once you clear Sar out of the picture with the screen, there's no rim protector anymore. And now Duren just gets to finish over a lot of players that are just smaller than him who can't really contest it, right? So that's exactly what you're going to see here. Duren gets past, help comes, but no one can guard Duren on that drive. And then here's Duren just bring the ball up, and he just looks really comfortable doing so, right? So here, as Duren brings the ball up, you're going to see them flow immediately into a screen from Duren. Zubac's not going to Duren because Duren's not a shooter, right? So Zubac can comfortably play at like the free throw line. But again, there's no player on the Clippers that's in the paint. So once Tim Hardaway Jr. sets the screen, and once it's a good screen, then it's just Duren going downhill. And you're going to see him look comfortable making this drive as well, right? So downhill, then it's just Harden that's guarding him. And you're not really stopping that, right? So I think like there's real benefit to Duren as a ball handler. But even if you don't feel that comfortable with him handling the ball and getting screens, I think there's real focus that you can play on Duren being a focal point of your offense, where like you're just throwing the ball to him in the elbow, like you're gonna see here, and then letting Duren kind of play make out of this set. So this play was really cool for me. So you can see that the Pistons are lined up in kind of like a Spain stack action, and what Spain is basically when you have a ball handler like Cade, then Duren comes, sets the first screen. Cade takes the first screen, and then someone will set the second screen for Duren. Like, you're basically screening the first screener. So that's Spain action, that's stack action. That's not what's going to happen here. It's just in the formation of that. So they're just variations you can run out of this like formation, right? So instead here, Cade's going to throw the ball to Duren, so Duren's not actually going to set the screen. And then once Cade throws this ball to Duren, Cade's going to come off immediately for a dribble handoff, right? You can see here Tim Hardaway Jr. is already waiting to see how this play develops. Your first read is maybe there's just a free layup for Cade, right? As Cade comes off, like this potentially is just a really clean look. But if not, you can flow immediately into this back screen, this inverted pick and roll from Tim Hardaway Jr. and Duren. This is what like your Spain secondary action would be anyways, just Duren doesn't have the ball. But here Duren does have the ball. You feel comfortable with Duren having the ball. He gets this back screen, and then no one in the paint. Same exact situation, right? And you also already ran that first fake handoff action. Not a fake handoff, but like just, you ran that first handoff action that didn't work, which also occupies defenders, right? Because you're occupying defenders, this paint is going to be open. Duren's going to take advantage of that and then finish off this pick and roll, right? Again, look how open he is off of these sets. So I'm just curious if the Pistons lean into that more. He's getting more touches again as the season has gone on. More touches at the elbow, just playing through Duren a little bit more. But I think he looks really good as a playmaker. And then you can start getting into this two-man game with Cade, running offense through Duren. Cade can play off ball more, and then here's just a give and go, right? But moving Cade off ball a little bit more is going to be beneficial just from like a load perspective. And also you feel really good with Duren kind of as like, or I feel really good with Duren as kind of that like focal hub and just running more offense through him because just very talented passer and also just capable of putting the ball on the floor. Two things that you need if you're going to run offense through the center. Right, so that's the offensive side of it. Let's look at the defensive side of it. Here you're going to see Duren in drop. So here's the handoff. Duren's in drop. You're going to see him kind of stunt here and then recover back to the big. So this is good footwork to kind of just like be attentive, get back to the center, stop the driver. He hasn't been great at it in his career as a defender, but he's looked a lot better in recent games. And then, especially in the playoff series against the Knicks, he looked pretty good too. Here, you're going to see him. He's in drop here. This is where like it looks kind of bad. So he's in drop, quickly comes off this. He's a little tilted. You can see he's more angled than flat. And then hands are low, but it's not active. So there's just going to be a clean pass. And then no one's kind of... So Walter's job here is to kind of come higher and tag Pirtle, which he's not going to do. But if you're Duren, you kind of know that you have two help defenders on your right side, on the strong side. So you want to make sure that this pass because it doesn't go through, right? Like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Sasser are both in positions to help. You have two players there. But instead, you're going to let this pass go through with very little effort to kind of get the steal. And then there's just a wide open layup for Pirtle. So again, not the best drop defender. He's getting better. He looks like he's like athletic enough to like recover. He should theoretically be a better drop defender. Here, the Pistons are going to ice the screen. And what icing means is when you're close to a sideline, you're going to force the ball handler to go to the sideline towards the baseline, no matter which direction the screen is set, right? So, like, even though the screen is set for Castle to go towards the middle of the court, if you're Tobias, you want to get in front of Castle, so Castle has to reject the screen, so that Castle has to go on the other side. And you can see Duren thinks that's happening too. There's a scheme that the Pistons are going to run. They're going to ice the screen on the baseline, on the sidelines. Tobias doesn't actually get there, which means that Duren has to get back to the play. So obviously there's a broken, like quote-unquote broken defensive scheme. But then even if it's broken, Duren has to be a little better in these situations. Like here, Duren tries to get back to the play to guard Castle because he thought that the screen was going to be iced. It wasn't iced. But here, like your hands are down. You're not really in a position to stop this pass at all. There's just a free play at this point. And I know it's off like a broken defensive play, but still, like you have to be a little bit better in these situations. There are times he looks good though. Like here, right? Like he's supposed to be at the level here, which you can see he's running up to the screen because he knows he's supposed to be there. There's one of those attentiveness things. It's not horrible, but like you want him to be a little quicker. Makes a big effort to get to the level of the screen, right? And then here at the level, they're going to stop this drive and then he gets back. And then here, this is how icing is supposed to work. See Tim Hardaway Jr. ice Vassell so that Vassell doesn't take the screen. And then this whole play is negated now. Right, so good effort by Duren to get back into the play, even though he wasn't as attentive when the screen was initially being set. But like here, right, like he gets switched onto the guard, moves his feet well, contains it, and then back to center. And then you run into the same play again. This is being attentive. Look, he's holding Bassi. Like you're at the play, you're involved, you're gonna come to the level fast. This is up to touch or at the level of the screen, right? So you're just always in the play. He's actually touching the defender. Switches back onto Fox, gets there, helps force his turnover. Right, so I think like he's growing as a defender. Same thing with Pirtle, up to touch. You can see he's there. He's at the level of the screen. That means he's in the play. He's able to like defend this. He's gonna actually show here. So they're gonna quickly pick the ball up. I don't know if they really wanted to do that or that's just like doing his own thing, but he gets picked quickly to pick the ball up here, and then he recovers really well. So the roll man, Pirtle, here is supposed to be tagged by one of Tim Hardaway Jr. or Walters, which is what happens. So you're going to see Lindy Walters come up, tag Pirtle, and then once he just stops Pirtle for a second, he's going to recover out, and you're hoping that Duren comes back into play, which Duren does come back into play, makes a fantastic block. So, like, some of the tools are there. Like, I think Duren's a fine defender. I think he can be better of a defender if he puts effort into the defense side of the ball, which the second half of the season looked a lot better for him. Here you're going to see he's going to get over the screen. There's a cross screen, supposedly, and then one of the better offensive post players in Zubac is just going to set up shop. Duren's strong. Like, look, he's going to absorb this contact so well. This contact right here from Zubac, he's going to absorb really, really well and force Zubac to turn around to his right shoulder. Right? And again, Zubac is one of the better offensive post players in the NBA. Duren does a good job there. You're going to see Duren fight here again. So action's happening at the top of your screen from the Clippers. Zubac's in the dunker spot, traditional big dunker spot. Right? That's the Iverson cut. And then you're going to see Zubac quickly try to do a swim move to get positioned deep in the post. But Duren's going to be attentive here and fight through this entire thing, right? And then pushes Zubac all the way up to this elbow now. Right, so there's just like really good post defense to get Zubac off his spot, even from like, not like a trick play, right? But like I'm not involved in the basketball play to just immediately try to get position. Duren in that play was pretty good at just like understanding that was happening and getting back and fighting. So here, just, again, strength, containing Zubac. Zubac does score on this, but, like, Duren's a great post defender. Just because he's so strong, right? So good defense there. Overall, I think, like, Duren's probably, like, I want to say he trended up to a net positive at the end of the season. So I'm going to go check. If you haven't been following along the series, what I do is I go to EPM, defensive EPM, which is a catch-all metric. No catch-all metric is perfect, but it's pretty damn good. So I'm just going to go check what percentile he is as a defender in general. And then come back here and see if that kind of matches up with what I think. If I had to guess, I'm going to say, like, I'll say he started the season in the 40th percentile, and he's going to end the season in the 50th percentile. So let's kind of see what that looks like. So Duren ended the season with a minus 0.7 defensive EPM, which would put him in the 40th percentile. But he started the season pretty bad. He was at like minus 1.2, which is just going to be a lot worse than where he ended the season. So he did get a little better. Still not great, but he's trending up, and hopefully that kind of continues into the next season as well. And yeah, I'm excited to see how the Pistons are going to be utilizing Duren in the offensive scheme.